El Camino People, the podcast, episode 2. Ultreya, fellow pilgrims, and welcome to El Camino People, the podcast. I am José María Ornaz, pilgrim, entrepreneur, Pamplonica, and Camino lover. From today on, we will share Camino news and stories from pilgrims all over the world. Pilgrims die just like you, because Camino stories need to be told. Wanna walk with us? Today we have with us Lorenzo. He's from Australia and he's one of the pilgrims that I met through Instagram, and he was one of the lucky ones that enjoyed a visit with me in Pamplona. So if you want to visit Pamplona with a local, feel free to send me a message and you will be able to enjoy Pamplona and try all the best things that we have over here. So hello Lorenzo, good afternoon, good evening for you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good afternoon. It's actually good evening here, but good afternoon to you. Yeah, it's good to see you again.
So Lorenzo walked the Camino in March. We're going to let you tell us a little bit about, what was the reason for you to start the Camino? How someone from Sydney, goes all the way around the world to walk 1 month in Spain. So tell us a little more.
Well, it actually happened probably more than a year ago, probably even 2 years ago. I was actually watching a documentary on TV. I was actually sitting with my wife, and suddenly this documentary appeared out of nowhere on TV. And within probably 2 minutes, I actually looked at my wife and I said, I want to do that someday. So it was kind of one of those things where, you see it. And from before that documentary, I've never heard about the Camino at all. So it was the very first time I actually learned about it or actually saw it on TV, because they were interviewing a few pilgrims and that. It was one of those things where it's quite instant. You just kind of felt, I have to do that. So for me, it was very almost immediate. I just felt, because they always say the Camino calls you. And for me, it was almost instant. When I saw it on TV, it was one of those things where you kind of just said instantly, I have to do that someday. So for me, it was like that.
You're both with your wife watching TV and suddenly you said you want to go like 1,000 miles and walk the Camino. What did your wife say? Are you crazy or what are you thinking about?
Yeah, she didn't think it was crazy because like me, she's Catholic, so she could understand. She could understand why I wanted to do it, because one of it was obviously for religious, spiritual aspects. So she wasn't. I guess she wasn't surprised about it. In fact, but many people that I told about it afterwards were a bit surprised. They kind of say, hey, why do you want to walk 850 kilometers? I always get these because it took me at least a year before I really went. So I tell friends or people that I've met, and I usually get this weird look that why do you want to walk 850 kilometers? So I still do actually up till now when I tell them I've walked 850 kilometers, I still get that look, actually, that weird look on people's faces.
It is impressive how weird it is, that I think the same to myself. Like, oh yes, I did close to 1,000 kilometers without nothing. It feels, and you did it, and it seems like the most normal thing, and you probably want to do it again also. So you saw this documentary, you talked to your wife, and then through the year that you were waiting, what happened? How was the planning? How did you plan your trip?
Good. It actually, funny enough, it actually triggered me too, because I knew I was probably about 20 kilos overweight then. So, so I knew in my current physical state I couldn't do it. So I decided at that time to go back to training. So to cut the long story short, I actually lost almost 20 kilos.
In a year?
It was probably more than that, actually. I can't remember the exact date that I decided to do the Camino, but it was at least a year, maybe a year and a half. where I lost 20 kilos because I knew that, well, personally for me, I couldn't really do it or enjoy doing it if I wasn't physically fit. So the first aspect was really trying to lose weight, and I did a lot of training. So I lost about 20 kilos more or less before that. And also the research part of it, I guess, is, just trying to, I read a lot of blogs. There's a lot of them are on YouTube, but there were two that were really good. So I did a lot of research and really planned, how I was going to do it. Funny enough, when you actually do the Camino, you kind of realize you really can't plan as much because it's kind of a day-to-day thing. So I was foolish enough to actually plan my itinerary on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of saying I'm going to stop day one here, day two here. But when you actually do it, it's not as straightforward as that. It really depends on, as you probably know, your body, the people that you the people that you walk with, plus, how you find that town that you suddenly, enter in, because I remember there was one day where I was planning to walk 30 kilometers, but I ended up in this town, which I think was, I forgot the name of the town, but it was the one with the singing nuns.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway,
I don't know the name, but I remember that one like it was yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, but it was one of those towns where when you go there, and I remember I went there about lunchtime. So I was originally just planning on a lunch break, but I ended up staying for the day because it was one of those things where you just feel, I just have to stay in this town a bit more, and try to explore it. So there's so many, as you know, there's so many aspects to the Camino where, the best laid plan sometimes doesn't,
Yeah.
doesn't, you can only plan 1 or 2 days at best, I think, on the Camino. Well, based on my experience.
Yeah, I think the best plan for the Camino is not to plan, just to let the flow. Like a lot of people, ask all the time, like, should I be planning for everything? Should I, get ready? Should I book all my places to sleep? And, once you do the Camino, you realize that you don't really need to plan.
Yeah.
You can always plan as much as you want, but how was your, like, a lot of people ask about the training aspect. Like, what should you do before you go to the Camino? What kind of training did you do to get ready for that walk?
Good question. About a month before, I was walking a minimum of 20K a day. So just trying to really get I do like walking, but obviously a 20 a day even, is quite a lot. But I tried to walk at least 20K a day just 2 weeks before the Camino, plus in addition to the training that I was already doing. So it's really just trying to get into the routine. So there are a lot of websites that say you also need to train, in climbing, higher altitudes. But for me, it wasn't really possible. So that's why I decided, as long as I could generally get the feel of walking 20 kilometers a day at least, I should be okay. So walking in my shoes, the ones that because I bought hiking shoes. So one of the things that is said a lot in a lot of the resources that you do is to try to walk in the shoes that you're going to be doing. So yeah, that helped me a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main important things. You need to be sure that the shoes that you're going to be walking, no matter what they are, if they're running, hiking boots, they need to fit you. I read it in a lot of places, people say, oh, better hiking boots, better running shoes. I'm like, no, it's a one-on-one basics. For some people, they are great in flip-flops. Some others, they will need hiking. I even met a German guy that was doing the Camino barefoot. So you have to find your own way, as they say. And so when you do the Camino, how do you stop for a month? What was the point, you're in a point of your life that you say, you think, like let's say in 2017, you see this documentary, then you plan, and then suddenly you go to the Camino. What was the reason that made you, go that moment? What were you?
So I originally actually planned on doing it in September of 2019, this year. So September this year. But I suddenly found myself in February leaving my employer of more than 6 years. They had the big reorg. So to cut the long story short, I left the company. So so suddenly I realized, oh, okay, so I'm gonna be obviously looking for new work, but I felt, ooh, this is a perfect opportunity actually, because I'm in between jobs, and doing the Camino, it's at least 30 days of your life, and not everyone has 30 days to spare out of their busy schedule. So I just thought, wow, it's a perfect time, and it just happened. I don't know whether it was fate or that I finally found myself, in between jobs, and it wasn't planned at all. So instead of, it was funny. I know I told you this before, where I actually had my entire itinerary planned on Booking.com in September. So I was one of those rookie mistakes where I actually planned my whole itinerary from day 1 to 32. So anyway, I decided, no, okay, I'm going to do it earlier. And actually, when I was going to do it in September, I was originally planning on doing the Camino. What do you call that?
The Norte?
A luxury type of Camino, where
the luxury Camino.
I was going to do more of the hotels and but obviously, because I wasn't employed, I'm in between jobs. I said, I promised my wife, no, I'm going to do the albergues and really experience the 100% Camino pilgrim experience. So I decided, except for the first night in St. John, and my last night in Santiago.
Okay.
I didn't book any accommodation. So
It is
I
funny.
really said,
Yeah, in my first Camino, I met another guy from the UK. He did his Camino based on booking. So he will put, 22K every day, and whatever is on the 22K radius, he will stop, book on booking, and then that's the way he put his stages. Instead of doing the whole, the whatever 30 days of the Camino.
Yep.
It is fun. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to do a little clock here, and I want to invite everybody. Now we have a referral program with Booking. So if you're going to book your hotel with Booking, please use our website, and that will help us keep growing. So what was your impression with albergues now that you have your mind on hotels, and suddenly a lot of people, they think that it's going to be like, I don't know, living in the third world or something like that.
Yeah.
What was your experience with albergues?
Oh, I loved it. Actually, to be honest, the first maybe week, I didn't enjoy it, because especially the first night in Roncesvalles, because I did my Camino in the winter time. Well, it's kind of still winter time, so the main Roncesvalles wing was still closed. So we ended up staying in one of the satellite ones, which is a smaller.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a very cramped part of the wing of Roncesvalles. So it was my very first night.
That's the old albergue, yeah.
It was my second night. The first night was in St. John, but it was probably not the best one. So I was on top of that, I was really jet lagged. So being in the room with 40 other people trying to get over jet lag wasn't really the best. So anyway, first week I wasn't really a big fan, to be perfectly honest, mainly because it was, as you know, it's a very intense kind of environment. But honestly, after you get used to it, I actually enjoyed it. I like obviously the camaraderie that happens during the evenings. So I found myself, whilst originally my first week I kind of preferred the private albergues, because they're, you have smaller, less beds in a room. There's a bit more privacy. But eventually I actually ended up preferring the municipal ones, mainly because, there's a bigger sense of family in the municipal. The bigger the better, I think. And you just get this sense of camaraderie and family at the end of at the end of your walk. So I actually ended up enjoying it. So to a certain extent, you don't really care anymore whether you're getting a bunk bed on top or at the bottom, or if there's 50 people in the same room. You kind of just get into that kind of sense of community. So yeah, so I think almost because I did the Camino 4 weeks and a half. Towards the last 2 weeks of the Camino, if I had a choice, I'd end up going to the municipal albergues, which I actually preferred.
Yeah, I agree with you. You were talking about jet lag, and you coming from Australia. What kind of tips would you give to someone that is coming from Australia, or, from the US? Because a lot of people said that, once you come, a lot of people plans on walking on the first day. Now that you have done it, what would couple tips you will give these people?
A lot of people were saying when I was reading the blogs and etc. is maybe stay an extra day or two in, say, St. John before you do your Camino to get over the jet lag. But actually, from my experience, you don't really need to, because from day one you're going to be walking 20 kilometers a day. By the time you get to your destination, you're dead tired. And really, after a meal, all you want to do is sleep, really. So for me, I don't think I needed having a rest day or two before doing the Camino. I think because, as long as because you're busy the whole day, you're actually physically, active the whole day. So that kind of helps you, I think, get over the jet lag anyway. But don't get me wrong. I mean, I still ended up, even if I slept dead tired at 10 p.m., I'd still end up waking at 2 a.m. the following, morning. But and a lot of the Asians actually, we almost, because we're all in the same time zone, we'd normally wake up the same time, which is like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. But it's just part of the experience. And then eventually, because you're really physically active the whole day. For me, probably by the time I was in day 4, I was almost pretty much adjusted to the jet lag. Sorry, I've already overcome the jet lag, which is good. So yeah, so I to be honest, I didn't have any issues. Just starting the Camino on day 1. I think it wasn't. It wasn't an issue.
Yeah. So you just go with it, and it will go away, and you didn't probably even realize it.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you were saying that you are Catholic, and I'm Catholic too. And the other day we have a meeting here in Pamplona with the church, talking about how people from the church or the church itself needs to work with the Camino more here at the beginning to accompany, to go with the pilgrims. And because I guess today, now on the Camino, there's a lot of people searching, even if they are not Catholics, even if they are not religious. I think that kind of company of someone over there. What was your experience, with the church and being Catholic through the Camino? Do you find it easy to go to church, to mass, to have, confession or someone to talk to? What was your...
It was a bit mixed, to be perfectly honest, but because I went in winter time. So because that was one of the reasons that I did the Camino is for religious purposes, because I'm Catholic. But in wintertime, based on my experience, not all the churches in the towns were open, and not all, even in the bigger towns, not all churches offered mass were either they weren't open, or even if they were open, they didn't offer any mass. So in a way, that part was a bit disappointing. I just felt, it's the Camino de Santiago. You would expect, but I don't know whether it was because it was winter, that, not, probably on average, every 7 days, I'd get to experience pilgrim mass maybe 2 out of 7 days. So definitely not every town offered it, which was, to be honest, was quite surprising. I would have thought that it would have been something that was normal. But I heard, especially during winter time, you don't get as much of the pilgrim masses being offered on the Camino. So yeah, that was my experience. But I mean, the ones that did offer it was really special. Like I remember, first week Santo Domingo de la Calzada. It was it was in because the cathedral was being built, but they still offered mass in the chapel, and it was probably one of the most special masses that I've attended. The priest, I can't remember his name, but he just he spoke Spanish. I couldn't understand the word he said, but just the way he was delivering it, and he was very passionate about his sermon and all that. It was it was one of those probably masses that I still remember to today. So I mean, while there wasn't that many pilgrim masses, at least the masses that I did went to was really special, and I really enjoyed it. I just probably from a Catholic pilgrim, I just hope maybe there were a lot more.
Okay. So what do you think, the pilgrims that were at the time with you, what kind of pilgrims was people doing mostly for, religious reasons, for just, searching? Were they doing for sport?
Look, from my experience, probably, out of the 100 pilgrims that I've met, it's only 10 were probably doing it for religious purposes. The rest were either doing it for, more broad spiritual purposes, not necessarily a religious perspective. But there's so many reasons. Some are just doing it for, the physical aspect. I've met people who are doing it for just, the touristic aspect of it. But you'll be surprised. There's just, the reasons people doing it. There's just so many. Like I remember meeting this lady from Switzerland, and she's a cancer survivor, and she said, if she one of the she ended up doing it. So, and I remember I also met this other lady from South Africa who's a recovering alcoholic, and she said, she's doing it for just finding her inner peace and all that. So I guess there's just so many reasons. When you're in the Camino, you meet all these people, and you realize people do it for all sorts of reasons. A lot of them very unique. A lot of them, like those two people really touched me when they told me why they're doing it. And when they shared to me why they're doing the Camino, it's very touching sometimes.
It's quite amazing how people open to you when they are doing the Camino. It feels like you've been some things that you will never even talk to, family, friends, or co-workers. You talk to the stranger that you're walking 5 minutes on the day, and I think that's part of the whole beauty of the Camino, all the stories that the people bring with them, and how at the end I always believe that those stories is what helps you get to Santiago and create your own.
That's true. In fact, there's something about the Camino where it's so conducive that people are just willing to open up to random strangers. Because I remember I was in I can't remember the town anymore, but it was definitely in the Meseta where I was just having coffee with two other pilgrims, one Canadian, one American. And suddenly out of the blue, this Canadian woman joins us and, just said, can I join you for coffee? And she actually ended up, I won't tell the whole story, it's going to be long, but, she ended up talking about, her Camino experience. And essentially, to cut the long story short, she actually did the Camino with her partner at that time, and through the Camino she realized that I think ultimately she realized that they weren't meant for each other, and that she's decided to end that relationship. So I guess there's something about the Camino where you also kind of realize, whether you're, compatible with each other. But I guess I'm digressing from my point, which is, she told this to us within 2 minutes of meeting us. So it was one of those things where, you have these random strangers just suddenly opening up to you their innermost feelings. So I think it's one of those unique aspects of the Camino where, you just, you find yourself opening up to random strangers.
It is incredible because at the beginning it feels like something, strange, but as you keep walking, I think, the Camino, we can probably name the Camino de Santiago the new, psychologist or whatever it is, because at the end, walking and talking with other people, I think, that's what at the end everybody's looking when they go to the Camino. You always, you were saying, you feel the call. I think that sometimes the Camino really calls you, and no matter what you're expecting, the Camino will deliver what he wants to. Look at this lady, look into with your partner that probably you're hoping to be your life partner, and suddenly in the middle of the Camino they break apart. This is probably one of the few ones. I know the opposite stories, people that fell in love in the Camino, even the people that make babies in the Camino, but I haven't heard about, people breaking up in the Camino. But I guess all kind of things can happen. And talking about relationship, you've been married with a daughter. How was being, a lot of people will think, how is breaking apart for a month from your family to take your own, personal time? I guess that was probably, a hard decision, and trying to keep in touch with them. How was it that for you?
I think it's really important, especially if you're in a relationship. It's very important, I think, that you have the support of your partner, because you're going to be gone for at least 4 weeks. And, if you're a normal working person with a family, it's a big ask. And in fact, I was discussing this also with a few other pilgrims who, were in the similar boat as me, have kids, married. So, going away for, 5 weeks to walk across northern Spain is a big ask, especially if you have a relationship and a family. So I think it's important you have the support of, your partner or your family. Fortunately for me, I did have that support. And I think it's important that you have that, to be able to, embark on, an adventure such as like this, because it's at least 4 weeks of your life. So it's a big, how do I say, it's a big investment in terms of your time and effort. So you really need, I think, the support of your loved ones to do it. Is that the same for you?
I guess, for me, I was by myself, so I didn't have, just have my family, I have to say, I wasn't able to go on vacation with it. But now with my MBA, we always talk, about the points that you have on a relationship and how you use your points. You can use them to go have beers with your friends. I guess in your case, you use the points for probably a couple of years. So now you are at the fate of your wife and your daughter, whatever they say, they have right. So, but I see a lot of people, and I guess, when you're in a relationship for that long and so deep, I think, you need your own time, and probably everyone understands, and you will do the same for your wife. So, and that what comes to, now that you have gone, how was your wife and your daughter? Are they interested? Will they love to go one day? I guess you have tell them so many stories. They have seen so many pictures. How is to live the Camino from apart? I'm like, I live the Camino like you in the Camino, but I don't know how it is to live it when someone that you love is doing it. Was that easy for them? Was it easy for you to talk to them every day? Or what kind of, schedule did you follow? Also with the time difference between, Spain and Australia. Yeah, during the Camino and now after the Camino.
Yeah, look, I think with technology these days, it's quite easy to keep in touch. When I did the Camino, I actually did my own diary. I blogged about it, so it was, it was quite easy to keep in touch with loved ones. They kind of, at that time, I made the decision to blog about it when I was doing the Camino. So, my family, my friends knew exactly what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, which is good. But now that I've done it, I have my next Camino already in my mind. I want to do the Camino del Norte next, actually. I don't know when, probably, maybe not next year, but maybe the year after. I do want to bring my family with me next time. Whether my daughter's she's turning 11, so I don't know whether she could actually physically do the whole thing. But either they accompany me, they walk certain days, the other days they take the bus or whatever. But it's I was actually discussing this with another friend that I did the Camino with. But it's funny enough, after you do the Camino, when you get back, you're already planning your next one. And it was the same for me. I ended up watching
Probably
YouTube.
on the plane already.
Yeah, I was already watching the YouTube videos on the Camino del Norte. But I mean, if I could have it my way, I'd probably do it with my family next time, because it's a great experience. And I've seen, families on the Camino. I've seen, like, when I was on the Camino, I met an American couple that had 6 kids with them, including a toddler.
Walking, all of them.
Yeah, all of them. They didn't walk all the way. I think part of it,
Wow.
they'd take the taxi or the bus. But I think doing the Camino with your loved ones is, I think would be a great experience. It would be a completely different Camino. But if I could have it my way, I'd probably want to share my next Camino with either a family or even a friend. I do that. It's something. I think it adds a different dimension to your Camino. Doing it with family, because on my first Camino, I've met so many people either who were doing it with family or even doing it with kids. So I think I'd like to do that one day.
Yeah, I seen it all. I seen people doing the Camino with kids and donkeys. People doing the Camino with Right now, like 2 weeks ago, there was a family doing the Camino with 2 kids and 2 donkeys. I seen people doing the Camino with the trolley. People doing the Camino biking with kids. People doing the Camino with babies. I remember this lady from Korea. She did the Camino with a 7 years old. The whole Camino, they walked the whole way, the French one. So, and I think that probably, the 2021 is the Jacobean year. So that will be an amazing year for us Catholics to walk to Santiago. It's the year where they open the gate that gives you the forgiveness of everything. That's why it's it's going to be a busy year, but beautiful indeed. Yeah. So we've been talking for already half an hour. So, what will you say? I always ask this to people. There's a lot of people that may be listening to us that hasn't walked the Camino yet and has a lot of questions. What will be the 2 tips, the 2 sentences that they will tell them to encourage them or to give that step forward?
Well, they always say, the Camino calls you. So, trust your, I guess, instinct. If you feel, if you're compelled to do it, just go for it. I mean, at the end of the day, you can do a lot of preparation. And I was the type of person that just wants to prepare and be prepared for it, physically, mentally. But having said that, I've met a lot of people who did the Camino and didn't prepare for it physically as well. It was probably a lot more uncomfortable for them, but still people, successfully complete the Camino even with very minimal training. So it just really depends on, the kind of experience you want to have. But at the end of the day, my tip is, if you're compelled to do it, just do it. You can do a lot of preparation. There's so much resources on the web these days that you can do. But I'm the type of person who wants to prepare. I guess for me, do you really need to 100% train for it? Probably not. Like I said, I've seen people who weren't as fit and still ended up doing it. But I guess if you train for it, that your transition will be less painful.
Yeah.
You'll get into that rhythm a lot quicker. Whereas I think if you don't train for it, you'll eventually get there, but it will take you a lot more time, like, maybe 2 weeks. In my case, within a week, I was really in the groove already. But I think if you're not as physically fit, it will take you you know, a bit of time to get over it. But, either way, you'll eventually get there. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lorenzo. We wish you the best in your new job, and hopefully we'll see you again walking new caminos. Thank you so much for everything. Have a great night.
all right.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to El Camino People, the podcast, with me, your host, José María Ordenat. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website, elcaminopeople.com. And please leave us a review on iTunes or iVoox. Join us in 2 weeks for more Camino experience. Thank you. We'll try